to our first online live Ukraine event. This has not been without its technical challenges. A big thank you to Richard, because he's the technical guy, and his friends, Ian and Ian. The aim of this meeting is to try and explain what life is like for people in Ukraine at the moment, in the most difficult parts of Ukraine. And when I say that, Dnipro had a terrible time just a couple of days ago with serious ballistic missiles causing a lot of deaths and damage. Sumi's had a lot of attacks too. So the people who are there, many thanks to them, because life is pretty hard for them at the moment, but they can explain that to you. What we're now going to do is I'm going to hand over to my co-chair, Gennady, who is a very good friend. And Richard, with a bit of luck, you'll be able to put Gennady on.
Yes, hello everybody. I'm in the safest part of Ukraine. As you know, it's Uzhhorod. We have influx of people from the very beginning of the war. In fact, ourselves, we were having a holiday somewhere in Italy skiing when the whole thing started. And because my wife is from Ukraine, we made a decision to come back. And that I never forget, this Tarantino movie thing when people in the blankets in 100,000s were leaving the border and we were the only one family coming in because, well, still leaving the car, you know, in Slovakia, thinking that if something goes wrong, we'll join the queue on the way from Ukraine. But things turn out to be better than expected for us. And in spite of the fact that we experienced all these panic attacks and children were traumatized because of sirens, etc., and you don't know really what to expect. But this is the past. It's already like 3 years and more from now. While in Ukraine, we decided to help as much as we can. Like, you know, a lot of my friends, a lot of people I know, they started doing something in order to help all these displaced people. And I never forget evacuation trains which were coming in the night or early morning usually, and we were picking up people from the train. Mostly it's women and children, and bringing them into our house without knowing their names, you know, nothing. Giving them sort of shelter and helping them to move on, because most of them would, you know, wanted to go abroad. When in fact, just recently I watched this 20 days in Mariupol, and it's documentary, and it's just, you know, there are no politics. It's just terrible. You know, there's aggression, and the innocent people who killed and their livelihood was destroyed, and it's all these things which we'll know. So yes, I've started, you know, small thing. I've engaged my British colleagues. I started my own charity. I'm in speaking business. I'm professor of Brunel University, and I'm consultant. So I try to engage all my contacts, and I managed to bring Jeff Hoffman, who is the co-founder of Booking.com, Brian Tracy, and many other people who were expressing their support, spreading the news and the truth about the war, helping financially some of them. So that's how things are. And at the moment, we're still in Uzhhorod. We decided not to move until the war is over. Kids love it here, and I love it here. It's a nice town, coffee. So like only in the night now we have these terrible sirens, and we know that somewhere missiles are, you know, falling from sky on innocent people in other parts of Ukraine. So that's kind of small introduction. Sorry for being making it too long probably, but if you have any questions, I'd be delighted.
We could introduce Anton now.
Good evening. Can you hear me, first of all? Yeah, that's a good start. Okay, I'm going to give a very quick run through of what Nightingales does and who we are. Okay, so we're a team of 7. I'm a retired marketing manager, businessman, My main role is in fundraising with Nightingales. I should add that we all have multiple roles, so these are just sort of our headline roles, if you like. Dan Holton is a trained mechanic, so quite logically, he looks after our vehicle sources and looks after our vehicles. Denise Ullman is a pediatric consultant, so with lots of contacts in the medical world. So she's ideal, of course, for sourcing medical aid, as indeed is Rupert, who you've already met, a retired GP and medical researcher. Nick Benny is another practical man, sat over there, who looks after our logistics. Then we have Olena Verona, a Ukrainian from Sumy, who is a vital link for us with our Ukrainian friends, both here and in Ukraine, and perhaps as importantly, certainly as importantly, with the Ukraine authorities, the Ukraine customs officials who we have to get through. And last but by no means least, Lisa Verona, Elena's daughter, who's recently joined us to help with marketing and social media. So why Nightingales UK? Well, I'm sure Florence Nightingale, the name is very familiar to all of you. Of course, arguably the founder of the UK Health Service. And she, in fact, was busy in Crimea in the mid-1800s. The nightingale is the Ukraine national bird. So it made complete sense to us to call ourselves Nightingales UK. Next, please. We launched in Milton Coombe, where we're still predominantly based, almost 2 years ago on the 23rd of August, Ukraine National Day, Independence Day. And we started with a simple mission of providing life-saving medical aid and appropriate humanitarian aid. And I say appropriate, I'll come back to that a little bit later. So our mission is simply or predominantly to raise money. Money gives us the flexibility to buy 4x4 vehicles, long wheelbase 4x4s, which we fill with medical aid and then drive into Ukraine. We do take some humanitarian aid that is specifically requested by our partners in Ukraine. It costs around £5,000 to buy a vehicle, buy some medical aid, and get it over into Ukraine. The aim is quite simple, but the work is complex and multifaceted. Of course, it involves fundraising. We collect donations, sort and pack. We have to produce a detailed inventory, and that one there is just one part of one load, the inventory for one part of one load. So there's quite a lot of work involved in the packing and making sure that everything is listed. Vehicles obviously need checking, that's Dan's department, and we know that we have reliable and effective partners in Ukraine. The journey takes 3 days, at least we make it last 3 days. We stop off either in East Holland or in Germany on the first night. The second night we are in Prague, where we have extremely generous and effective partners. They run their own Ukraine charity from Prague. And then we go on the third day briefly into Slovakia, then into Hungary. We bypass Budapest and we cross over at a border point called Zahon into Uzhhorod in Western Ukraine. And you can see here Uzhhorod there in the west, Sumy, of which you will hear more shortly, and Kyiv is roughly here, just to the south of the reservoir. Uzhhorod is a really pleasant city. It has a lovely walk along the river, Lime Walk, has a medieval castle, bridges over the river, parks, and a very, very good busker playing the fiddle. He's really excellent. We suspect he's a previous professional musician. So on the face of it, it's a normally functioning, very pleasant city. And then we come across this. And this is quite sobering, and it's a tiny, really very, very small representation of the lives that have been lost since the war broke out in 2022. And it's memorials, obviously, to guys and ladies from the city and the surrounding area. To date, in 22 months, we've actually raised over 50 grand. We've done that via presentations of this type, but usually somewhat longer, to various local groups, fundraising events, concerts. We've put on folk music concerts. We had a very successful day of dance and an equally successful sponsored meal. Car boot sales, garage sales, and public donations, of course, are most important. I'm going to point out one lady here who is sat there, called Janie Bryson, who has raised and continues to raise the most phenomenal amount of money for us. So Janie, thank you very much. So where does our aid come from? Well, some we buy. We pick up excess or short-dated stock from local hospitals or GP surgeries. Outreach paramedics based in Cornwall have been very generous with donations, and you will be hearing from Faye shortly about the work they do in Ukraine. And again, donations from the public are most welcome and can be actually dropped off at the wharf or contact us and we will collect. In the 22 months we've been going, we've managed to deliver 11 4x4 vehicles and a transit van into Ukraine, each full of medical aid. And the first one was in September 23, so within a month of us launching. The last one was only a couple of weeks ago, earlier this month. And you can see here various handover pictures where we've handed over the vehicles either to military or to the charity that we supply to. And those handovers are usually quite emotional and almost overwhelming. As you can imagine, it's the end of a journey for us, but the beginning of another one. Next, please. We've also delivered 4 loads of humanitarian aid to Corridor in Prague, very well-run charity who takes stuff deep into Ukraine. Those loads were taken in the transit van, which you may have seen in one of the pictures, that we've actually now donated to the Ukrainians. We didn't feel it was being used quite enough over here, and they were very pleased to receive it. Here are some pictures from the front line of our vehicles, a Jeep in Zaporizhia, and the governor of the Kherson district actually thanking us for the receipt of a vehicle with aid. As I've said, our primary aim is front line, but we do also support the Malyatko Children's Rehab Center in Uzhhorod in the west of Ukraine. They provide medical services for disabled and autistic children, and they also provide 2 weeks respite and rehabilitation from the war for groups of children from the east. You can see from Kharkiv, going back to December 23, another one there from Sumy, October last year. So we support them in a limited way as best we can. We've even managed to facilitate a very significant consignment of aid from the USA, thanks to some friends of Denise. It took several months to get through with bureaucracy, both in the United States and indeed in Europe, but it did finally get to where it needed to go. I won't dwell on this slide. Next, please. It's the leaflet that is on your chair, and it's got all our details on there about what we do and indeed how you can contribute if you so wish to do. You can help us obviously by donating money, which can go via our GoFundMe page or directly into our bank account. You could perhaps think of organizing an event to raise money on our behalf. And if you are a member of a local group and think they would enjoy or be interested in one of our presentations, if you could sort a venue for us and arrange that, that would be great. We'd be only too pleased to do that. And I think I've previously mentioned any medical aid items you wish to contribute can be left at the wharf. In the immediate future, we're trying to sort out a minibus, which we've already purchased, but DVLA are being extremely dilatory in providing us with the necessary paperwork to get it into Ukraine. That's our prime aim. in the short term, and in the medium and longer term, the specific requirements in Ukraine may well change, but we will continue to support in the way dictated by our colleagues over in Ukraine. So in summary, we're a locally based small group. We're flexible. We think we have a good mix of skills with a high level of medical expertise. We know we have trustworthy contacts in Ukraine and indeed in Prague. We can react quickly, and we're unhampered by bureaucracy, at least our own bureaucracy. Finally, I just would like to read to you the last paragraph from this certificate of appreciation from 1+1 Already Not Alone, who hopefully we will be hearing from in a few minutes. And this was a certificate of appreciation. It says the whole team, Charitable Foundation 1+1 Already Not Alone, and people of Unbreakable Ukraine expresses deep and sincere gratitude to the team Nightingales England for the support. We appreciate that you didn't stay away and provide important and so much needed help, which brings our victory closer. Slava Ukraine. Glory to Ukraine. Thank you.
Thank you, Anton. So any questions in the room?
No, I wasn't there. I was just amazing what all you people do. And I imagine and hope that every other country in Europe and maybe beyond Europe are doing the same sorts of things. So is there any coordination between the different groups doing this if there are as many good people like you in other countries doing the same thing?
Rupert didn't want to answer that, did he? No, not really. I mean, we have, as I mentioned, we have links with outreach in Cornwall. There are groups in Cornwall. There's a Plymouth-based group. They all have a slightly different emphasis. We decided that we're a small team of 6 or 7 now, and we work well together. We think there's a lot to be said for keeping a small team. We all have other things to do, although they're becoming increasingly difficult to find the time to do. I'm sure we all agree with that. This type of thing almost can take over your life, and we're very dedicated to it. We give it as much time as we possibly can. And I think by expanding out, we would struggle without then bringing more people into the team, and that in turn requires more management. So at the moment, we're quite happy.
So in the interest of time, we're going to keep going. So the next presenter is Elena and Lisa. Now, they've already been introduced, so I shall just hand over the microphone at this stage.
Hello, everyone. I'm incredibly grateful to see you tonight, gathered to hear and support Ukraine. You can't even imagine that how much it means. It reminds me that through the suffering, there is still a place for kindness and light. And light is what gives us hope. Hope, what is carried me through these 3 years.
Hello, everyone. My name is Lisa, and I'm so happy to see so many people tonight. Thank you so much for being here. It means really a lot to us. Today's topic is not the easiest one to talk about, but your support makes it so much better. Thank you. 3 years ago, I was a student in the university in Kharkiv, and it's a big city with millions of people building their lives in it. It was my first time living away from home, and I would lie if I said I wasn't enjoying it. Yeah, away from parents. But it was holiday time, so I went to visit my family, and it luckily that I did it. I was living in Kharkiv for more than a year. I made a lot of friends, and I never thought that living at that time, I'm never going to see this city and people again.
You're going to hear a lot of stories tonight, but you know, every single Ukrainian has their own story in this war. Before February 2022, we lived our ordinary lives. We had our plans for future, our own dreams to go to mountains, to have a dog, to plant a garden. But one morning, we woke up with sounds of bombs dropping on our cities. And now we are all dreaming about one thing, and we all have hope. That morning will live in my memory forever. 5 a.m., we were woken by explosions. We got a phone call from our friends who lived close to Russian border that Russian tanks are going through their village. Sergei, my husband, and I looked at each other in total silence. And we realized that we had to decide, stay and risk our children's lives, or leave and lose everything. Our decision came with fear, guilt, heartbreak. But inside, we both knew that our children's lives came first.
It was really hard to believe that everything that is happening was for real. But unfortunately, it was a reality for us. So we started to pack our lives. It's really hard to keep everything under control when your imagination just feeding you with all the worst scenarios that can happen on the way. And so many things had to be leave behind. Things that were part of my identity, like my clothes, my medals, my keyboard, my cat, my friends and relatives, my home.
As soon as we managed to leave the city, Russian tanks already entered Sumy. We saw them behind our car, and it was terrifying. Some cars with people who were trying to flee later were shot away. And cars were left aside the road with bodies aside. All roads were choked with cars. It took us 3 days to get to the western part of Ukraine.
Yeah, it's really hard to believe. 300 kilometers is such a big distance. Usually this way would take us 12 hours through the whole Ukraine, but it was taking days. So many people, and we spent nights in the car, unable to go to the toilet or food. We were running out with food, but luckily people were sharing a piece of bread, a blanket. Yeah, so we were teaming up on the way there.
We made it to UK thanks to generosity of strangers and volunteers who opened their homes and hearts for us. Adaptation wasn't easy. I wasn't anymore me. I was a refugee. I was someone who started from zero. But eventually we built our new life here. But no, not everyone fled. Some and many people stayed. Some because they had no choice, others because they couldn't dare to leave their parents, their homes, their animals, their land. And today I have an honor to introduce my dear friend Svetlana, who one of the many brave Ukrainian who made her choice to stay in Sumy.
Hello, my name is Svetlana and I'm from Sumy, a beautiful town on Ukraine's northeastern border with Russia. I want to tell you my story. It's not an outstanding one, it's not a unique one, but it's one of the million stories of the Ukrainians who are surviving the war. In the winter of 2022, we were living in a strange kind of calm. We were awaiting the war. Russian troops were amassing just across the border. But we kept telling ourselves, it won't happen, it can't be. But deep down, we all felt it coming. On the morning of February 24, I was woken up by a phrase that is forever imprinted in my memory. Russia invaded. This phrase split my life into before and after. At that time, I was working as a university teacher, and I had to teach my university class online that day. But only 2 students joined. They were scared, they were distracted, they were terrified, so was I. But I realized that the only thing I can do for them to calm them down somehow. Not only my students, but all people were confused. Nobody knew exactly what to do. We were stocking up on water and food. My biggest fear then was to run out of food for our pets. We had 4 of them then, and it was very important. There were incredibly long queues everywhere, at ATMs, petrol stations, at shops. There was a huge line of cars at the exit from the city. My parents and brother moved into our house as we had a basement, which we turned into a shelter. Meanwhile, my daughter, a student in Kiev, stood with her suitcase on the street and asked me where to go. The dorm had no shelter, so she couldn't stay there anymore, but I had no answer because Russian armored vehicles entered Sumy already. I called my cousin in Kiev and I was hoping she could let my daughter stay with her, but she was already fleeing the city. Fortunately, there was 1 free seat in her car, so she took my daughter to Lviv first, and later they moved to Berlin, where they are living now. I didn't know then that next time I would see my child in a year and a half. In Sumy, local volunteers got weapons and formed a territorial defense unit. They were the only ones that time standing between us and the enemy. People had hoped that everything would end very quickly. So did I. But I couldn't just wait in fear. I saw a post on Facebook about a cafe in the city that was cooking meals for our defenders. And I joined it immediately as a volunteer. We packed lunches, cooked hot meals, and even made desserts. When territorial defenders came to us to pick up the food, we got fresh news from about the situation around the city. And these people were always calm, they were confident, and this confidence helped us hold it together, not panic too much. So many people fled and left behind their elderly neighbors, whom they helped to buy medicine or groceries, and it was a great problem then. So I wrote a post on Facebook offering help, and next day I received more than 100 requests. Since I was busy cooking, my husband and my brother, they started delivering supplies And we organized kind of like medicine runs with volunteers driving to the west of Ukraine. Many pets were always left behind. And these animals ran around the city hungry and they looking for food. It was heartbreaking view. They couldn't help themselves. They couldn't pack their bags and flee. We started to feed strays, delivered pet food, and even found new homes for some of them. After 2 months, my husband told me that he was joining the army. I was shocked. I was terrified. I must say that shortly before that, our troops had liberated cities near Kiev, cities like Bucha, Irpin, Borodyanka, from occupation. And the whole world saw the atrocities committed by the occupiers, then hundreds of dead civilians on the streets, tortured people in the basements, fresh graves in the yards. I begged my husband not to go, but he said, I don't want Bucha to happen here. And 3 days later, he was gone. Uncertainty was the most unbearable thing then. So I learned to live alone. I kept working, volunteering, surviving. Even though Sumy was liberated in April 2022, attacks never stopped. Drones, missiles, shelling. This is a common tactic of our enemy. If they can't occupy a town, they try to wipe it off the face of the earth. And now there is even more like new tactic. In the border villages, drones are hidden on roads or on paths or even in gardens, and they are waiting for a target. And these targets are civilians, people who were, for example, people who were evacuated and came back to take their belongings, or people who are still living there and just simply go outside to their gardens. As soon as the person or car appears, the operator somewhere in Russia launches the drone. And these are the realities of our lives now. But we are still here. We've learned to live under fire. We've learned to grieve and keep going. We've learned to find moments of joy amid fear. And we've also learned how much the world support means. To those who stood with us, especially in the early days, the British played a significant role at the beginning of the war, when they didn't let Ukraine accept peace on the aggressor's terms. They inspired us. Thank you.
I didn't know if you wanted to say anything, Elena, because Elena's been to Sumy quite recently. You want to tell us what it's like now?
You know, it's really was emotional and overwhelming trip. I had to go to Sumy. I stayed for 3 days, and I was wandering familiar streets, and they're all was like the same, but very, very different. And a lot of buildings are destroyed. I met Svetlana. We went for a cup of tea and we had a talk. We have a lot of common memories and how we brought up our children, but felt like we both were different already. I was very emotional to see Svetlana on screen because I'm really missing my people.
Thank you very much. Apologies for the technical issues. So we're going to now proceed, and I'm going to invite Faye from Outreach Paramedics to come and talk to us.
Okay, lovely. Hello, everyone. First of all, enormous thanks to Nightingales for the invite. Denise, Rupert, Dan, the whole team, incredible work, and we feel really privileged to be supporting you in whatever way we can. So thank you very much. Also, your story is just incredible. Chokes me, but yeah, your story is one of millions, and you have our utmost respect. So thank you for sharing. Okay. So my name's Faye. I'm a paramedic. I'm based in Cornwall. And when I saw the injustice that was Russia invading Ukraine, I felt compelled to do something. Originally, that started with driving ambulances out to Ukraine back as soon as the 2022 occupation began. So I drove the ambulances out to the Polish-Ukrainian border. I got to the border and I saw the hundreds and hundreds of families getting off the train at the Polish-Ukrainian border. And from that point on, I knew I had to do more. So that's when Outreach Paramedics was formed. The goal was to provide ambulances originally, to donate them to organisations that needed them, and not only to provide ambulances, but to equip them to the standard that would be actually useful. They weren't just yellow vans, which is what I was originally in a different organisation taking over there, that were essentially just empty vehicles that look like ambulances, but they're just big yellow vans. Not a criticism, because no doubt they'll be useful, but we wanted to ensure that the vehicles that we provided were functional from the moment we got them there. So in the very early days, we donated 3 ambulances fully equipped with medical supplies, and supplied 3 tons of medical supplies, a ton in each ambulance, which might have been over the limit for safety, but we don't talk about that anymore. And then whilst we were out there, just through making contacts, we discovered there was a need in the State Fire Service to improve their medical knowledge. What was happening was firefighters who would respond to these missile strikes, drone attacks, they would be quite often the first people on the scene at these attacks. They'd be treating civilians, and then the double tap attacks started. So the Russians would wait for the emergency services to come in and begin rescuing people and making buildings safe, and then they would strike again with the goal of maximizing damage to the infrastructure and killing and maiming as many people as they could. So not only were firefighters having to treat civilians, they were having to treat their colleagues, and they quite often didn't, unfortunately, have the skills that UK firefighters have as standard. They didn't at that time. So things like applying tourniquets effectively, applying chest seals, something which can prevent a pneumothorax or collapsed lung. These sorts of skills, fairly easy, and if you know how to do them well, they'll save a life. So we saw this need, and we worked closely with the fire service to start delivering training in the country. Initially, it was quite far west in Rivne and Khmelnytsky, excuse my pronunciation. And then as we became more aware of the need, and that the need was mostly in the volatile areas, and as our infrastructure grew, the strength, resilience in terms of, we began to be donated body armor, helmets, ballistic vests. We had training about how to behave in these environments. As our resilience began to grow, we were able to then move to where we were needed more. So we have gone to Kyiv, Dnipro, Kremenchuk, Cherkasy, and more recently Odessa. We were actually meant to be in Sumy in our last mission back in February, but unfortunately they had a massive attack, and the firefighters themselves, not only were they working a lot of the time, but they were exhausted. So anything, like even on their days off, you know, they weren't days off, they were prepping the vehicles to go back out and respond. It's a completely different life. Anyway, if we can go on to the Crime Watch video.
Now, in our series of films looking at extraordinary people, we're joining the emergency workers from Cornwall who are training firefighters on the front line in Ukraine.
So the air raid siren's going off. Been moved down to the basement. We put ourselves into hostile environments because that's where we're needed. Our ultimate goal is to provide ambulances, medical supplies, and training to areas enduring humanitarian crises. Whether that's Ukraine or further afield, our goal is to provide those things so that people can go on and save a life.
My name's Faye. I'm a paramedic for South Western Ambulance Service and founder of Outreach Paramedics. Outreach Paramedics was set up in 2022 in response to the Ukrainian war. It was myself and a friend, Declan. He and I met each other through another organisation that was taking ambulances out to Ukraine. We would drop the ambulances at the Polish-Ukrainian border, and I got there and was like, I want to go in and actually help people. I could see there was a need in the east and that aid wasn't getting there, so it was a case of how do we get to where we're needed. Over the last 2 years, Outreach Paramedics has managed to donate 3 ambulances fully stocked with medical equipment. We worked with a Polish-based charity who introduced us to the Ukrainian State Fire Service. Firefighters are the first to respond to missile attacks and these strikes across Ukraine, and so firefighters do have to deal with injured patients that need medical care, and they haven't had the medical training that you would expect when you're dealing with that sort of thing. That's where we come in, really. We provide that training in the hope that they'll be able to save somebody's life. We've worked with 17 fire stations and we've trained 516 firefighters in pre-hospital emergency care. We've also donated 12 trauma kits to 6 fire stations. So it all starts with fundraising. We have a lot of events that are run that generate income. We also have corporate sponsors and an online platform for people to donate. And also people give a lot with their time. So we've had people professionally convert our vehicles to ensure they're fit for our purpose, fit for our needs. So it's not just money, it's time and kit and resources that we also need.
This is the Outreach Paramedics unit. We've been here for just over a year. It's a very kindly donated space, which is incredible. So we have all of our body armours, radios, medical kits, and the training kits here. Yeah, so this is our body armour that's been donated. It's an expensive bit of kit, so we're really lucky.
Once we've fundraised enough, we start the planning. We're in contact with the Ukrainian Firefighters charity who decide where we're needed and where we're going to go, and they arrange our schedule. I get nervous before missions. The environment is a difficult one because it feels very much like normal life out there. There's shops that are open, there's people milling around, going for coffees, but then it's interrupted with an air raid siren going off. It's really bizarre.
So the air raid siren's going off. Been moved down to the basement.
The further east you go, the higher the threat. The more often these missiles come. It can be quite scary. The most dangerous situation was when we were in Dnipro and we were training. The air raid siren went off, and whilst we were gathering our equipment to go down to the bunker, a missile hit fairly nearby and we heard the explosion. So yeah, that really put into perspective, you are in a war zone here. We put ourselves into hostile environments because that's where we're needed. That's why I'm so proud of Outreach Paramedics, is because we are operating where we're needed. We'd like to expand to other places in need. I don't think our work will stop at Ukraine. It will extend to wherever we can operate and be most efficient, and where our skills are needed.
Terrifying, but some really great work there.
Yeah, great work.
Cheers, Rob. Thank you. So yeah, that's essentially what we do. Obviously, those figures are a bit out of date. We've since been out to Odessa, and we're about 800 firefighters trained now. And each time the mission changes and the mission goals change. So we've realised more recently that the quality of tourniquets, sorry, I won't be much longer. The quality of tourniquets that that the firefighters have are not actually up to standard a lot of the time. This is from in the earlier days when we visited, this is a 3D printed tourniquet, which hasn't been medically safety tested. And these sorts of things, this is a Chinese replica with a very thin breakable bit of metal. And it's these sorts of things. We go there and we see what the need is, we adapt, and next time our next mission is back to Odessa to continue training the firefighters, and we'd like to provide each firefighter with an individual first aid kit. So tourniquets, chest seals, blast bandages, hemostatic gauze, anything to basically prevent life-threatening injury or save a life. So that's it. We're obviously made up of volunteers, mostly medics, paramedics, nurses, doctors. We've got an actor as well from The Bill, if anybody used to watch The Bill, DC Terry Perkins, and he loves it when we play the Bill theme tune to him. Not. But yeah, so we're very lucky to have that support, and hopefully we can do more. It's definitely getting more challenging with fundraising, but we can do what we can do, and we'll keep supporting as long as we can. So thank you very much, and big thank you to Nightingales once again. Incredible, and it's a pleasure to support you when we can.
Thanks, Faye. It's been a fantastic relationship. They've provided a lot of kit for us. We've done a little bit back for them, and it's one of the ways in which we can actually network. Going back to your original question about networking, we do have a number of really beneficial partnerships. And we are now going to try and get hold of Nika in Dnipro. Nika is a good friend, and she set up a charity called 1+1 No Longer Alone. And we have been working with her for a very long time. In fact, many of us have been working before we set up Nightingales, and we've been working with Nika and donating vehicles, medical aid, and so on. And to be honest, this lady needs to be sainted. She really does need to be sainted. She does so much work in Dnipro, helping people in ways she's going to explain, and I won't. So I'm just going to hand over now to Nika, who's going to tell us what she does in her charity in Dnipro.
Всіх вітаю, доброго всім вечора.
Good evening. Yeah, Nika wants to introduce me. I'm her friend, her colleague. My name is Asa, and I'll help Nika to translate. Yes, every Ukrainian men and women, we woke up from horrible sounds of bombs. Yes, and despite that we from other cities, Nika is from Dnipro and I'm from Energodar, but we felt the same emotions on the 24th of February in 2022. Yeah, we were in shock and we didn't know the whole situation. We didn't know how Russian soldiers, how fast they were going through our country, and there was a lack of news because it was a panic, something like panic in our country. I don't want to explain what we felt in that day, but we exactly understood that not only elderly people needed our help, but also our boys from our army.
Скажи, что наш фонд в общем занимается этими людьми.
Yeah, we want to admit that our foundation help elderly people at all, and it was not only when the war began, yes, but it was before the war also. Thanks to our connection with our soldiers, and when it was the first evacuation from the warm points, from the warm cities, it was elderly people, and no one in Dnipro wanted to take them and give them a home, yes, a temporary home. So the boys called Nika and asked asked if he could to find out something, yes, to help these people and give them a temporary home, maybe for 1 month if it's possible. But we started a new page of our history of our foundation. Yes, our foundation didn't have any house, any even room to give this as a home for these elderly people, and unfortunately, it was very old people. Yes, for Ukraine, it is very old people, as they nearly 80, 90 years old. Yeah, these people were very scary, and if I could say, we were very happy, yes, that they came to our hand, and personally, our team, helped them and began such a page in our foundation history.
Сначала это было 9 человек.
Firstly, it was 9 people.
С каждым днем прибавлялось по 10-15 человек.
Yes, and day after day, there was from 10 to 15 people every day.
И мы приняли решение, нам помогли взять в аренду большущее помещение на 54 комнаты в бывшем общежитии, где жили студенты.
Yes, and we made a decision, and we had a help from our partners to rent a big house, it was a community for university students, yes, before the war. This accommodation for сколько комнат?
54.
For 54 rooms where elderly people could live, and they still living here for today.
Были, просто ужаснейшие условия там.
It was awful rooms. It was very awful windows, very awful doors, everything.
Разрисованные комнаты, плесень.
Yes, there was some paints on the walls.
Все поломанное.
Yes, and broken tables, broken beds.
И мы начали своими руками, руками нашей команды наводить там порядок.
And our team started to bring life in this accommodation. Yes, it was very awful conditions.
Но людям было некуда ехать.
But yes, but people hadn't another way. They hadn't another homes. Most of these people are alone. So
мы объединились с неравнодушными людьми.
Yes, we connect to our team. Yes, we try to find, but I think maybe these people find us who wanted to help, who wanted to take part in our.
Мы начали каждый день там наводить порядок для этих людей,
and
чтобы им было комфортно.
And we started every day try to bring life to these rooms, so these people can feel comfortable in this accommodation. Yeah, today in our center lives 150 people. Yes, we connect partners to help elderly people and people with disabilities to help them to make their life better. Now we are trying to work with elderly changes and also with dementia problems. We made a rehabilitation room for our elderly people where they can try to improve their skills, yes, try to make their life better, and simply play in games and watch films.
Это очень помогает людям преодолеть вот этот стресс и одиночество полное.
We think that it helps people to fight with stress and they're feeling lonely. Yes, Nika says that she is really happy that everyone from our team really wants to make lives of these people really better, and we are trying to change something in our country, because in our country there is no program, there is no ways for these people to live better. In our country, when you are old, you just live and nothing better. Yeah, we are so grateful for your support that you give us every day, that you help us, that you are always on connection. We can always speak to you, and you are always try to hear our needs. Yes, we very grateful also for support for our army, for our guys.
Если есть какие-то, я понимаю, что в 15 минутах не рассказать все, чего хочется.
Yeah, unfortunately, we want yes to say more, to tell you more, but 15 minutes it's too small timing for us, and maybe you have some questions. We are happy to answer them.
Thank you so much. I've worked with Nika for some time. I think people come in from the war-torn areas in a terrible state. Very often it's the elderly who've been left on their own, refusing to leave their homes. Many of them have got dementia and other things. They have a lot of psychological distress. And what they didn't say here is they have psychologists, they have nurses, they have rehabilitators, they have the whole works here in this, what was a largely bombed out center. And also, Nika fixes everything for us. If we have a problem with a car, we send over, Nika fixes it. You know, Nika connects us to the army and so on. So it's a fantastic foundation. Any questions? Nika, the question was, are you in touch with any UK or international organizations that help people with dementia?
Now we are in connect to HelpAge organization, yes, and Nezabudny organization. Nezabudny in Ukraine are fighting with dementia. We just started this this huge part of our work, and are trying to make a very great connection with Nezabudny, yes, and with HelpAge.
Thank you. So thank you very much, Nika, and your friend whose name I couldn't hear. Sorry. So thank you very much both. A round of applause, please. Now, at this stage, I have to do a little dress change. You'll wonder why. I'm going to introduce Kira. So Kira produced this shirt for me. She stitched it by hand. And as a thank you to Nightingales and all the people who support us. So I am so proud to wear this shirt. Also in line to be a saint is Kira, one of the most admirable people I've ever met. So Kira is going to tell us her story, which started out in Mariupol and involved her being captured in the steelworks, and her husband also. I will ask one favor, please. Her husband is still in captivity, so please, no questions to Kira about her husband. Too painful. So, Kira, over to you.
Hi there, everyone.
Hi.
You have a very cool shirt, Rupert. So, for everyone, my name is Kira. I'm from Mariupol. I was a soldier in National Guard of Ukraine. Now it's Azov. I was there from the 2017, yeah, and I was like a veterinary doctor and a soldier at the same time. I was treat and looks for our dogs. It was 24 dogs we have, but after Mariupol, only 5 dogs was still alive. I have my dog with whom I was doing all this stuff. It's a Belgian Shepherd, but he's not with us now. He in Azovstal, he was died by the Raketa of the Russian Federation. I was a soldier from 2017, and when 2022, I was there, but not like a vet. I was in other system, but still in army, you know. And when start the war, I was there. I will be with my boys, my girls. I have my one of the best friends, Tamara. We doing all this stuff from the start and to the end. We was together all the time. And with my husband, we trying to be together, but we can't be always together. It's a war. We can do anything with it. So war is specific time for me, you know. It was interesting but hard. In May of 2022, we was go to captivity from Azovstal. Me and all of my friends who was still alive at that time. They are going us to Olenivka. It's in Donetsk Oblast, and we was there from 4 months. The Russian and our will be in captivity 3 or 4 months, not more. But as you know, more than half of that people still in captivity. Yeah, it's interesting 2 part of my life, but not too easy, you know. It's more than physical. They trying to push up emotional, psychological way. It's because it's not so easy to remember, and I don't think normal people even must know about that. It's not easy for your emotion and brain at the same time. So, as the Rupert say, I have a husband, Yura. He still in captivity. I know where he is, but I don't have any texting or any information from him to me. I know where he is from the boys who are going out of there. So we are married by the 2021, and in the August 17, it will be our 4th anniversary, but any of them we will not celebrate together. You know, our first anniversary was in Olenivka, and can see barracks where he's, and from the second floor of his barrack, he is hanging to me, and I'm trying to do some, kind of that for him, and it's our first anniversary. So as you see, it's not okay. It's not okay at all. I know what he's feeling now. He's bad. He's bad, and many of boys who is sit with him, they are having tuberculosis. I talked with Rupert about it when we was meeting in September in that year. I tell him that the boys has tuberculosis, and they Russian. They don't give them back, our boys, and we don't know why. They don't give back my husband. They don't give back other boys. They give back my Tamara, but after 2.5 years after captivity there, she come back, another person. She was so skinny, so she's looked like a dead person. I can't talk about it with normal feelings. I want to cry, because this is not easy for me. But now I go back in October 17 in 2022. But when I come back, my body is back, but my soul and my heart is still there. And I can feel what I'm a normal person, like a human. I'm not, and maybe will never be again. In my past life, before the war, we call it the past life. In my past life, I like to stitch and do other art stuff, I do it now, as you see in Rupert's shirt, but it's not as before, We all change when we come back from there, as physical and then emotional inside of us. When I come back, I have a very, I have a big face, big belly, and it's don't look like a normal face. It's look like a balloon. And I'm trying to come down. I'm walking on the forest, listening birds and other stuff, for your emotional support. It's work, but not too fast. Now I feel more than okay. I'm having antidepressants. It's make me feel more calm, but I still have some emotional splash, that I don't want to. I can be aggressive, that I don't want to be aggressive at all. It's not easy. It's not easy, and I even don't know what I can tell you more. So maybe we can answer the questions.
Thank you, Kira. That was fantastic, and I know that was really painful for you to say that, so we really appreciate that from the bottom of our hearts. So any questions for Kira?
We appreciate your taking this time and the emotional energy it takes to talk to us and to give us an idea of what life is being like for you there. It's very hard for us to imagine. It's very hard for us to comprehend the effects. And we really do appreciate the bravery in talking to us and enlightening us tonight. Thank you.
This is our friend, and she is not ready to talk more. She said everything she wanted and that she could say.
Then we must thank her again. I'm going to ask Gennady, who's been cut out of this because I've taken over as usual. Gennady, did you want to make any comments or say anything now? And I'll shut up.
Yes, that's a rare opportunity actually for me to squeeze in when you're talking. No, I'm kidding. No, I think it's really, it gives some glimpse of how things are and what people feel. And to be honest, when I was like before the war, I really didn't think much about charity. Now, my attitude to that completely changed. But the war made me better as a human being. Because first of all, I realized how lucky I am and my family, and how lucky we are that we're not being bombarded, almost every day. That's one findings. Another thing is that when we read about help, for example, European Union allocated, billions and zillions, and well, that's all right, and that's, I think, absolutely essentially important. But at the human level, all these millions and zillions, it's very, very difficult to reach to particular person in need. And that is what, this niche is taken by people to people, heart to heart, really people who feel compassionate, real life, full of real tragedies, even for kids, who, for example, lost their friends, lost their way of life, lost their homes. And even now, there is a possibility that I'll start crying because one negative thing about the whole thing is that I'm sort of broken inside, especially when it comes to children. We cannot imagine, what these kids go through, even when on the face of it, this seems to be normal. I think they'll be traumatized for life unless they're given maybe help after the war. Maybe during the war, there are some rehabilitation centers like Malyatka, which you support wholeheartedly. And I just wanted to thank, all my British friends. I spent quite a lot of time in the UK. I made my professional career there, and I'm not disappointed now, because I think British people are the people who were supporting Ukraine from the very beginning. And I hope it's not going to change. But the situation is not improving, and people still need some, food to eat. And a lot of people are quite actually resilient. And what I found about that Ukrainians really, truly resilient people. They very often start laughing in the face of some terrible things. So they are resilient, and they have this space for good humor and compassion, and I cannot really praise them more. And I cannot praise more British people and other people who help. And in fact, but when you really help people, especially when you know that it's trustworthy people and they're really in need, and even if it's not directly, but indirectly, like through you guys, your small team of wonderful people. You mentioned saints, but you are saints. I mean, you drive 2,000 miles and, and instead of doing nothing and drinking in, Prosecco somewhere. But you're coming here regardless of these obstacles. You're bringing cars, which are essentially important. And very important is that you are connected not to bureaucrats, not to some great foundation, God knows, how much they spend on administration, but you're connected to the people, to ordinary people whom you can, shake hands and give a hug. And that makes the whole nation better. And it's more, how can I say, you feel better about yourself. I mean, so I strongly suggest light your own candle, and thank you very much.
Really lovely words, and I think we can all echo that in this journey we have helped other people, but it's helped ourselves. We've grown as people, we've found new friends, new adventures, and it's been a fantastic journey. And it's been a privilege to meet people like our speakers tonight. Okay. I just want to say thank you very much to everybody who's come and the people who are still online. This has been a technical challenge, but I hope you'll find this was worthwhile. We're an organization that's tiny. We do our bit, and it's with the support from everybody around here that we've made the progress that we have. So I wanted to thank everybody, but particularly thank the speakers who are in Ukraine and how we really care for them. So thank you very much for coming.
Thank you very much for for invitation, that you give us such a chance to take part, to tell more about us. Of course, we have more information to tell you, to show you.
Для нас очень важно, чтобы об Украине говорили.
It's very important for us that you know about Ukraine, that you are speaking about Ukraine, and it's very important for us that you are helping, that you give your hands.
Мы чувствуем сильнее, когда мы чувствуем их поддержку.
Yes.
Мы чувствуем себя сильнее.
We feel our power when we feel your support, when we feel your hand in our hand.
So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Всей команде.
Yes, thank you so much for all your team, for all your guests, for all your people who came and who hear us, who support us. Thank you.
We're going to finish now with a very short film.